Hey guys, welcome back to Taboo with Carley Sue podcast. I'm your host Carley, and this is a podcast where we talk about all things controversial and often avoided in the Christian faith. And today I'm joined with another special guest, and he goes by the name Tom Miyashiro. I cannot pronounce your last name. I'm sorry. Say it.
Miyashiro.
Miyashiro.
Yep.
Tom Miyashiro.
Yep.
Tom's a leader, father. He's a grandpa.
Oh, wow.
He's a grandpa. And he basically is a bridge between millennials and Gen Zers.
Thank you. Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Yeah.
Nice intro.
Yeah. We're just going to get right into it today because we don't have much time. But today we're going to talk about grief. But before we get into that real quick, when did you give your life to Jesus?
I came to Christ when I was 16 years old. And it was an interesting time, actually. There were two revivals happening in America. One in Brownsville. It's called the Brownsville Revival in Pensacola, Florida. And another one up in Toronto. And it was called the Toronto Blessing. And Brownsville was more of like maybe a traditional revival. Toronto was like a really wild thing. Really ultra charismatic. It's where the laughing stuff started. But also like people were like acting like animals during the service, like barking like dogs and clucking like chickens. It was pretty wild stuff. My whole point in saying that, like, I didn't go to either place, but when the revival was spreading across the world, like it came, New England is on the coast, and so it was coming up and down the coast, and so there were wild meetings happening all over Connecticut at that time, and I got invited to one the week that I dropped out of school.
You dropped out of high school?
I did. So I dropped out of high school, and my brilliant plan was to get emancipated from my parents. It's like legally divorcing your parents. And
wait, what? Why?
And moving in with a girl. That was my smart plan. And to achieve this, I thought, okay, I'll drop out of high school and then life will be great.
I did not know that.
Then I broke up with the girl, and then it was like,
Did you do the emancipation?
I didn't get that far because I got saved at these meetings. So maybe I should back up a little more. Like I was a pretty difficult kid. I grew up in a very traditional church, fundamental church, but just like you. But I think it started younger for me. I started
younger than 5.
Well, younger in terms of questioning and wondering about all the God stuff. I think that started for me in middle school when I started getting bullied. And
how'd you get bullied?
I just went to a really rough inner city school. So I came in, I would say it was more like a country school. And when middle school, all the different schools converged in the city. And so coming into that school was like culture shock because there was a lot of different nationalities mashing up together. And it was kind of low income kind of environment. So there were kids who were from good neighborhoods, nicer home, and they kind of like coasted along at the top of the class, and they were even almost separated out into their own classes so they didn't deal with the rest of the difficult population. And at first I was kind of in that sphere for a little bit, but it didn't take me long to like be concerned that being smart or being active in a lot of different social things at different clubs in school didn't do anything for getting bullied and stuff like that. So I started backing out of everything, started trying to mimic some of my friends, getting in trouble, and the bullying stuff started. So it would start on the bus, and kids were really vicious and even violent. So I was not a good fighter or anything like that. So that's why I joined the wrestling team, to figure out how to defend myself.
Oh, wow.
So by the time I was in 8th grade, I started bulking up, and before too long, the whole cycle shifted, and now I was the bully, because it just didn't take much to offend, Before it was like, you get on the school bus, someone start a fight with you, and I just was trying to defend myself, and the next thing you know, the littlest comment was like, oh, you're trying to fight me. Now we're fighting. And now I'm doing the thing to kids that I used to have to survive. And so by the time I got to high school, I was not a great kid. So I was smart enough to figure out how to like endear my teachers and stuff, but I was doing all kinds of awful things. And so, yeah, by the time I got to high school, I was getting in trouble all the time, fighting all the time. And there's a moment where I think my parents, I can't actually remember what triggered all this, but this was kind of going into high school. Maybe it was my sophomore year. I think I got into it with my parents, and I ran away from home. And I remember that it was snowing that night, and they called the cops on me, actually. So the cops dragged me home. I took a swing at my dad. The cop threw me against the wall. Then I said something smart to him, like, your breath smells like onions or something.
Oh,
so then he jacked me up, threw me in the back of his car. And I think I don't think my parents pressed charges or whatever, because I tried to attack my dad. But I feel like I was headed for some kind of trouble. And one of my friends at school told me, hey, if you start talking crazy and say you're going to kill yourself and stuff, they'll instead of getting charges, you can shift that and make it, you can get out of it by talking crazy and stuff.
Wow.
They'll put you in a mental hospital. So I started doing that in the back of the cop car. I started saying I was going to do some stuff. So then instead of arresting me, they brought me to the hospital, and then from the hospital started doing a psych evaluation, and then they put me into a mental ward. So I wasn't crazy. I knew what I was doing. I was trying to like get out of things, and I said a lot of stuff and accused my parents of a lot of stuff, and they're like, you know that if you keep doing this, like, you'll become a ward of the state. If you're a ward of the state, your parents lose their rights, but then you can't go home, So I was like working through all that while I was in the mental hospital, and I learned to do infinitely more bad things there. But I think in the end, all the kids I met in that environment were telling me, you don't want to be stuck in a place like this. Like, you want to go home if you can find a way to go home. So the sum result of my learning was like, okay, I avoided charges by coming to a mental hospital, but I don't think I want to live in a juvenile facility for the rest of my teenage years. So I think I want to play the part and go home and just get more covert about whatever it is I wanted to do. So I went home, and my parents, they didn't trust me very much. And beginning of my junior year, there we go. Now it's all kind of coming back. Beginning of my junior year, we used to have these things called pagers, beepers. Do you know what they are?
Kind of.
So doctors, I think
okay,
doctors
that's what
still
I was
have
thinking
them.
of. Yeah.
Doctors still have them, but there was a fad, and this is before the cell phone was a thing. Gosh. So
You're old.
Yeah, so you'd pay
Grandpa.
$15 a month to have this pager or beeper. You could get them in different colors and whatever. And people who wanted to talk to you, they could page you, beep you, and then you'd call them back on a payphone. Put money in and call them back.
Oh, wow.
They'd leave their number on the screen. So it was the rage. All the kids had beepers. A lot of drug dealers had beepers. That's how they sold drugs. So that's probably how the trend started, was drug dealers had beepers. They'd get beeped in class and then go sell drugs. So I was like, so everybody had to have a beeper. I got a beeper. I had this cool black pager, and someone stole it out of my gym locker, and I was ticked. So I paged it, and the idiot kid who stole it from me called me back, and I recognized his voice, and I'm like, bro, first day of school, we're going ham on you, like you're dead. So my parents overheard me on the phone calling every dude I knew, and we were going to jump that kid, and I was going to get my beeper back, and I was going to punish him for taking my stuff.
Oh, my God.
So my parents overheard that on the phone. They went to the church, and they said, our kid does not need to be going back to public school right now. What can we do? And they were praying and blah, blah, blah. So all the church took a collection to pull me out of school and send me to a private school. So the first day of school, I'm getting ready to go in and fight this kid. And my parents are like, you're not going back to school today. I'm like, what are you talking about? And they're like, well, we pulled you out. We've withdrawn you from school. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You can't do that. Yes, we can. We're your parents. So they fitted me up in private school clothes and sent me to private school. And I'm a city kid, so I did not belong there. I felt like really like out of place. Anyway, I was there for a few months before I figured out because I'd been in a mental hospital, I had to mandatorily see a counselor. So when I'd go see the counselor, I'd ask the counselor, how do I divorce my parents? So he was teaching me how to do that during my counseling sessions. And my plan was, this school sucks. I am going to divorce my parents, move in with the girlfriend, and build my new life somewhere else. Like, that's what my dream was, I guess. So it was a pretty dark time. My parents and I were at odds. They wouldn't drive me anywhere.
But when did you like give your life to Jesus though?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't dropped out of school more than a week or two. I
thought it was wrestling. You broke your back.
I did. And so when I broke my back my sophomore year. So I had to have like knee surgeries and all this stuff. I was going to chiropractors. I walked around with a cane my junior year because everything was all messed up. So when I went to this private school, I was walking around with a cane, and now I'm wearing weird clothes with a tie and stuff. It was miserable. I was so mad at my life. And I couldn't wrestle anymore. And I wasn't around my friends anymore. I'm now in a weird Christian school where everybody is like extreme about Jesus. And I was like, this is crazy. So I dropped out. I hadn't been out of school longer than 2 weeks before the pastor's son from the Christian school called me up. And he wasn't like doing good things either. Like, he was a pastor's kid. You know what I mean? He was, he knew how to play everybody, but he was also like causing drama on the low. So he called me up and he's like, how's it like being a dropout? He's giving me a hard time. I'm like, what do you want, man? He's like, bro, I'm just calling you because like there's this evangelist coming through the area and you're the kind of kid who'd get radically saved at these meetings.
No way.
And I'm like, shut your mouth, dude. Like, what are you talking? And he was like taunting me. He was like teasing me. He was baiting me. He's like, no, I'm not joking. Like, you're the kind of kid who'd come to these things and like hit the floor and radically get saved. And I'm like, shut up, dude. Like, I think your church is the devil anyway. So like, it's not going to happen. And he's like, well, that's probably because you're not going to come. But if you did come, that's what would happen. And I'm like, bro, it would never happen. And he goes, I dare you. I was like, I'm not a kid. You can't dare me to go to church. Like, I'm not going to do that. And he's like, it's because you're a chicken. And like, he like triggered me. I was like, bro, I'm not a chicken. I'm going to go one time so you can see that this whole thing is the devil and phony baloney stuff. And that's it.
Wow.
So this guy comes into town and he's doing these youth revival nights. And this is all like an offshoot of all the revival stuff happening on the East Coast. And I come in and the first night it's pretty small and parents are dragging their kids who don't want to be there in to like hopefully like pray God into them. And this dude who was coming, which I've never seen this guy again, But he was weird. He's kind of had like, he was like really old, and he's bald on top, and he had like gray long hair in the back and a ponytail, which was super wild. And he was wearing these like baby blue skin tight pants. So like this guy was like a throwback from the 60s or 70s, but he had these huge eyes moving around like Yoda, and he talked weird.
Like Yoda.
Bro, he talked really weird. And he said to the group when he opened the meeting, he goes, I believe so strongly that you're going to get touched by God when I pray for you.
To you?
He said it to the whole room. He opens the meeting, and I'm sitting in the back row, like slumped in my chair with a hat pulled over my eyes and trying not to be seen. I'm there. I'm sitting next to this kid, pastor's kid, trying to just get through it and leave. So he basically opens the meeting by saying, I believe so strongly God's going to touch every person who comes forward for prayer that I'm willing to give you $10 to come up for prayer. He said, and then you can't tell me it doesn't pay to come to church. And then everybody laughs. And then he's like, he doesn't preach for long, maybe tells a couple stories, and then opens the prayer line, and young people start coming forward for prayer. And the typical charismatic type stuff starts happening. They're falling, they're shaking, they're doing all these things that you'd see in a charismatic meeting, right? Mm-hmm. And as he's going about his deal, he stops kind of midstream and he goes, there's someone who should be up here who's not up here. Lord, who is that? And he starts looking through the room. And then he finally stops and locks eyes with me. And he goes, young man, don't you want to meet God? Why don't you come up here right now and I'll give you $10. Like, even if you don't believe it, just let me pray for you. And I was like, heck to the no. It's not happening.
Oh my.
And he goes, are you sure? I'll give you $10. Now, $10 today is not much money, but $10 back then was a little bit more.
$10 is $10.
$10 is $10. I was like, no way, not $10. He goes, okay, not $10. I can see you're going to be difficult. $20. And I was like, a teenager, $20. That's a good chunk of money. That's a gas tank of gas back then. I'm like, nope, definitely not doing it for $20. Nope. How about $50? You come up here for $50? And now I'm like starting to feel anxious because I'm like, dang, this guy really believes his sauce, man. Like, he thinks something's going to happen to me.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, bro, I'm not going up there for any amount of money. And he goes, how about $100? And I'm like, bro, I'm not doing it. So then this pastor's kid stands up and he goes, it's because Tom's a chicken. And the whole room starts laughing at me, which again violated my whole, just
egotistic mindset.
Yeah. So I'm like, bro, I'm not a chicken. So I march up there for $0.
You lost $100.
I march up there for $0. I'm like, fine, do your mojo. Let's go. Do your thing. And I'm out of here. And he goes, and so like the audience is laughing at me. And I'm like, this whole thing is weird, but let's get it over with. And he goes, no. This ain't over. Like, I'm going to pray for you in a little bit. He says, what you can do right now is help me out. And he hands me the bag full of money. He says, as people come forward for prayer, you can just hand them $10 or whatever. Make sure everybody gets $10.
I cannot believe you just gave out money.
So he hands me this whole sack full of cash. And I'm like, dude, I should bounce right now. Like his whole ministry thing. I'm like, this is crazy. So for whatever reason, probably because people's eyes were on me too, I just cooperated. Like I started handing out the money to people who were coming out forward for prayer. And then people in the crowd who were appreciating what he was doing would come up and put more money in the bag. Oh. So like I'm like handling this dude's money. He's praying for people. They're falling around. So then he's like, hey. He wraps up and he goes, why don't you come back tomorrow night and we'll pray for you then? And I'm like, meh. So I'm like, I don't want to do this again. So then it got a couple of girls from the Christian school that I dropped out of. they were like interested. So one of the girls was like, "Are you gonna come back tomorrow?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And she's like, "I think you should." And I'm like, "I don't know." She's like, "Come on, I'll pick you up. I'll bring you." Okay. So I got the girl picking me up to bring me to this meeting. So that's different and interesting. So I'm gonna do that. So I show up the second night and he's like, "Where's the guy from last night who doesn't want to get prayed for?" "Yep, here I am. Here's my bag of cash." Handed out the money again. I'm like, "What the heck?" Like, he's like, "Yeah, we'll get to you. We'll get to you. We'll get to you." So he starts ministering for the evening and leaves me with the money bag. And then
I would have took off and ran.
Eventually, Carley would have taken the money and ran. So eventually
I don't like that he's just giving out money. Like
it was like, wild, man. It was a weird. It seems
like, oh, give your life to Christ so you can get, and then you can get money.
And you know what was interesting too is, I should say this too, is he created space at the beginning for all the kids who had something happen the night before to get up and say what happened to them. So you had probably a good 20, 30 minutes of testimonies before he even started with the money bag and started again. And the crowd doubled to the next night. So I hand out money for a minute, and then he starts saying, "Hey, young man, there's a special call on your life," to me. And he's like, "I think one day you're probably going to be doing what I'm doing." And I'm like, "There is no way. That's not happening." And he said, "So I want you to participate in the prayers, but I'm not praying for you right now. I'm just going to have you join me in what I'm doing." So he was using me to like continue his prayer ministry with people, and lots of stuff was going down charismatic style.
You weren't even saved.
Nope. And I was like, this is wackadoo. And I was so uncomfortable that I skipped the next night of the meetings because they just kept going on night after night. And I went to the elders of my fundamental conservative church where nothing like that happens. And I told them what happened. I said, "I think it's the devil. I think you guys should come with me and tell me why it's the devil." So I dragged the elders. I said, "I want honest assessment." So they took me through the whole spiel, or I took them through the whole spiel, and he did all the same stuff, used me in the same way, and then closed out the night. And then we had a Bible class at church, and I showed up at church so that they could debrief it with me. And they gave me the pros and cons of what they were witnessing and whatever. So that's kind of like a side quest. Back to the final night. He has his final night, so it must be Friday or Saturday night or whatever. And he goes, "Tonight, we're not praying for anybody. We're not opening the altar tonight. Tonight, we're just going to pray for my young friend who's been coming in helping me all week." So he made me the main event.
Bro.
And I was like, what the heck? So my nerves are shot. The pastor's kid's still in the back heckling me, which is making me more like irritated. And, so like I match it a little bit with a little comedy. I'm like, well, just in case, I'm going to go to the bathroom right now and stretch and everything. So I left the stage. I went to the bathroom, but I made a moment. People were laughing about it because I was like, I'm not going to say that you get credit for anything. And I'm like, dig my heels into the floor, so none of your witch doctor stuff happens to me, So all this stuff, all this kind of like pre-drama playing out. And then he says, "Okay, the time has come. We're going to do this." He said, "But I've invited 2 special friends to help me pray for you today." And he calls on these 2 ladies who are in the back being super disruptive. They're making all kinds of noise. They're making they're hooting, they're hollering, and they come up the aisle kind of half dancing. Like, from my perspective, I thought they were drunk. So I'm like, yo, that's so disrespectful. I think I said that into the microphone. I was like, that's so disrespectful. You're going to have 2 drunk people pray for me. That is so rude. The audience is still laughing at me. So I'm irritated. I'm upset. This guy is making me real self-conscious and a spectacle out of this thing. And he said, "You know what? I'm not even going to pray for you. These 2 ladies are going to pray for you, if you're all right with that. And I'm just going to sit back and watch." So he hands the mic to one of the ladies. And again, I've never seen these ladies again since. And the lady says, she's laughing and hooing and hawing and all this stuff. And
so they were drunk on the Holy Spirit.
I get, like, I'm telling you from my perspective as a 16-year-old who's never been in a church like this. I'm like, I guess. So she takes my hands. She just grabs my hands, and as she grabs my hands, she shifts from laughing and hooing and hawing to crying. And
she was drunk on the Spirit.
And I looked at her and I went, you know, my psychologist has some really great meds for you. That's what I said to her. That could help you with this.
Tom!
And she was like, she's like, I'm not crying for me. I'm crying for you. And I was like, and at that moment, like, it was a little bit like I had like an honest, like, it kind of like stung me when she said that. And she's like, I don't think you've ever had a day of joy in your whole life. And I was like, wow, that sucks. I was like, I never thought about it, but dang, if that's true, that sucks. My life sucks. So she said that, and then she said, can I take your hands and put them on your stomach? And I was like, okay. So she put my hands on my stomach, and then she began to like, she began to like say some words that now I know are from John 4. She put her hands on my stomach. She goes, rivers of living water well up, like something like that. And as she said that, I'm not even joking you, my stomach started freaking the freak out, and I thought I was going to have like diarrhea. I was freaking out. I was like, what the? Like, I could feel it. Like, and I was like, no. and instead of going down, it came up.
You vomited?
And I thought I was going to puke. But by the time it like reached my throat, I burst out laughing at the top of my lungs, like so hard that I just fell over on the ground, laughing hysterically, and I couldn't stop myself. It was almost like an out-of-body experience. Like I was like watching myself on the ground, laughing my head off, like with like, I'm not joking. I've never laughed this hard in my whole life. I laughed so hard that I pulled the muscles in my cheeks. Like
what?
Like, and it went on for a really long time, because when the episode finished, I did not know anything else that happened at the church. All I know is the pastor was flicking the lights on and off, and everybody was gone. So like, I'm like coming out of it. He's flicking the lights. The room is empty, and I'm like, what in the world just happened? And he was like trying to say, Tom, okay, time to go home. And all that's there is the girl who's been driving me the last couple nights. So I get up off the ground, and he's like, okay, time to go home. So I'm like, okay. So I'm feeling really weird about this. We get in the car, and the girl's name's Meg. Meg's like, so, and I'm like, I don't want to talk about it. Let's just take me home, please. Just take me home. I don't want to talk about this. So she takes me home, and I'm like embarrassed, and I'm like trying to think about what just happened to me, and I'm also like really a little confused, like about what just happened, and I go home. I don't talk to my parents. I go straight to bed, go to sleep, pretend like, oh, maybe it's some kind of weird fever dream. I'll wake up and this didn't happen. When I woke up in the morning, it was like I heard the birds and the bees and the sun. It was like falling in love kind of thing. Like just everything was alive, and I was alive. And I was like, whoa, life is worth living. Life is cool. Whoa. And so I'm like having this cool little moment with life. And then I started thinking about last night, and I'm like, oh, that's really embarrassing. Oh, my gosh. I wonder, oh, man. Just thinking about how it all went down. And meetings are over. There's no more revival, no more meetings, no answers, no salvation. But I'm thinking about the fact that I think I just encountered God. And I'm like, if that's real, then all this stuff at my parents' church I've been hearing my whole life is probably real too. So like I'm starting to put the dots together. Mm-hmm. And if that's real, then that whole bit about hell is real. And if hell is real, then I am going to burn for all eternity. Oh. Like all of it. And I am a wicked sinner. Like I do really bad things. Like all of it's just going through my head. And I'm like, holy cow, I've got a lot to answer for. So I go about my day. I'm feeling really bad. Like I'm feeling awful, actually. Just, I went from feeling laughing to pulling muscles in my cheeks, going to bed, waking up, feeling alive. And by the end of the day, I'm like, oh God, I can't die like this. Like if I were to kill myself, it would not end well for me. So I come home from school and my mom is watching TV and it's getting to be evening time. And since my parents don't drive me anywhere, I have to walk everywhere because I'm not allowed to ride the school bus because I'm too violent. I have to walk home from school. So it's evening time. It's twilight. I walk in the door and mom is watching TV and I'm like, where's dad? And she's like, he's at the church at a prayer meeting. And I was like, oh. I was like, well, I was wondering if it wasn't too much trouble. Can you take me up to see him? And she said, Tommy, you know that we're not taking you anywhere right now. You've caused too much pain, too much trouble. We don't trust you. I'm like, you won't take me to the church, to a prayer meeting to see my dad. This sounds like another shenanigan. It sounds like you're up to no good. It sounds like you're going to trick me and get me to take you somewhere else, or I don't know what you're up to, but it's not going to happen tonight. It's not happening tonight. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've never been so serious about anything. I need to talk to dad tonight. Will you please, pretty please, take me to the church? And
Wow.
she's like, we're not supposed to do that. We go back and forth for a minute. And she's like, fine, I'll take you. But if this is some kind of trick, this is the last time. Mom, I'm not joking. Just take me up there. So she takes me to church. I walk in the door, and I'm looking around for people. There's only 2 cars in the driveway. Peek my head in, and I actually open the door of the nursery. And it's just my dad and this other dude who goes to the church, African guy from Ghana. And they're on their knees praying in the nursery, just the 2 of them. And I walk in the door and they both look up. And I was like, and he's like, Tommy, what are you doing here? I'm like, Dad, I come here because I need to tell you I've done some wrong stuff. And like, I just started like trying to figure out the words. It's like,
Wow.
I just need to tell you. And my dad's like, well, if you ask Christ to forgive you, he'll separate your sin as far as the east is from the west. And I'm like, yeah, but like, I was going to start with music and friends, and I was just going to go down the list. So I started to, and he goes, stop. Just stop telling me this stuff. He goes, if you get down on your knees with us right now and ask Christ into your heart, like he's going to throw it into the sea of forgetfulness. He won't remember your sins. And if he doesn't remember your sins, I don't even need to know them. And I was like, all right. So I got down on my knees, and my dad and this African gentleman, they led me to the Lord right there. That's it.
Wow.
And that's it. Like, that's it. And
Wait,
then I
that's
became
so
a
tender.
raving lunatic evangelist from that moment on.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that they were just sitting in their room on their knees.
Crazy. Yeah. And you probably weren't looking for all of that, but that's the story. Like, that's how it went down. And I went back to high school. And I only needed like 2 or 3 credits to graduate. So I signed up for like 5 study halls. And I went to the cafeteria where all the study hall kids hung out. And I preached the gospel for 5 periods a day, all day, every day.
Did you ever get in trouble?
No, in fact, I was leading so many kids to Christ that the church left the church unlocked so I could baptize kids whenever I wanted to.
No.
And also, the guidance counselor at school would privately call me into his office and throw files at me and say, what can you do to help this kid?
Shut up.
And I'd be like, I don't know what to do with that. But I'd go after those kids that he'd say, and I'd share the gospel with them. And it was wild. It was very wild. And we used to have this thing called breakfast club. So for all the underprivileged kids who couldn't afford breakfast, they'd come to school early and the school would give them breakfast in the cafeteria. And I'd go straight to school at 7 a.m. and preach in the cafeteria during breakfast club. At the at its peak, I'd say there was like 70, 75 kids that would come hear me preach in the cafeteria first thing in the morning. It was crazy. So crazy.
Wow.
So that's how I got into the game. And I've been doing the same thing since I was 16. I haven't done anything but this since I was 16. Now, The way I do it has changed. I've never had a sack full of cash and handed out money from the pulpit for people to meet God. I've never done it that way. I've done interesting little creative moves to get people's attention for the gospel, but not per se that one. But that guy was actually quite right. Like, I went on to do youth evangelism in so many different ways. It's been 23 years, 24 years. I've never stopped. I went back to high school specifically to preach the gospel. I got a full ride to college and went to Bible college, learned the Bible, and then moved to the UK, preached the gospel in England. And then somewhere along the way, I founded Faith to Faith. And I just kept going till this moment, you know?
So you were married right now, but you had a marriage before that.
Yep.
And you guys got married at the age of 21. You told me this yesterday.
23, but we got together at 19.
Okay. And then 2 years into marriage, she was diagnosed with brain cancer.
Yes.
And so for 3-4 years, she was going through cancer.
4 years, yep.
And then she passed away.
Yes, but back up the story, because this is an important piece, to when she was 19 and when I was 19. And I led her to Christ.
Really?
And it was the dawn of the internet, and I built this little chat room. Like, I built some script to have online Bible studies with people anonymously. They just come in and we'd start chatting back and forth. Because the church, by this point in my thing, I was supposed to be interning at my home church, and they wanted me to do office hours, and I didn't want to do it. So I pulled the phone cord into the office, set up a computer, and started preaching the gospel from the office.
Oh my gosh, you're radical.
So she ended up in one of these chat rooms. Can make a long story short, and
Is that how you met her?
gave her life to Christ in a chat room. And then one day we were like, hey, I'd like to meet you. She actually said she'd like to meet the person who led her to Christ. So she came to the United States to find me. Yeah. And when she got off the plane, I was like, holy cow, what did I lead to Christ? This is crazy. Instantaneously was like, whoa, I got to marry this girl. So, yeah, that's how that went down. True story.
Wow.
No lies. Yeah. And I mean, like, I was like, whoa. So I'd only seen her once. She'd come to the United States to meet me, the man who led her to Christ. I met her, and I was like, whoa. So the first time I went to England, I went and I proposed immediately.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was pretty intense, pretty extreme. And I think this is the most like tapered down, calm version of myself as I get to my 40s. But when I was your age, I was right up there with you gangbuster kids. I was crazy. Big risks for the gospel. Different countries, different places. Love street preaching, just like that's why I love Gen Z. You guys are like what I was like, but all of you. And I'm like, man, I was born in the wrong time period. But the right time period, because Amy's conversion
Which is your first wife.
Yeah, marked the founding of Faith to Faith. I built the ministry in honor of her decision for Christ. So she was my first official convert in Faith to Faith.
Flirt to convert.
But it wasn't all that, because we didn't even have like video calls. None of that existed. So it was just like a prompt, and you'd write back and forth, and I shared the gospel with her, and she made a decision for Christ. And it was really just that like two humans exchanging basic, it was real basic information. You know what I mean? Like, there was no Instagram, couldn't swipe through a profile, none of that. I didn't know what she looked like, nothing. So when
Okay.
she turned up, and back then you could walk right up to the gate to pick people up because it was before 9/11. So you could literally pick someone up from the airport as they got off the plane in those days. So I walked right up to the gate, and she got off the plane, and I was like, whoa, this girl is beautiful. So that's how that started.
Wow. So you met this woman,
Mm-hmm.
and you fell in love. You guys got married.
Totally.
And then she unfortunately was diagnosed with cancer.
Yep. Brain cancer.
Brain cancer.
Yep. Brutal. It was brutal. We were 23. We were 24 when she had cancer. Yeah. 24, 25, 26, 24 years old. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, guys, this is going to be part 1 of my interview with Tom. So if you want to watch part 2, stick around. And part 2, we're going to really get into the grief aspect of what it was like losing his first wife and how he handled that and how the Lord met him in that, how he got through it and whatnot. So if you want to watch that, stay tuned and subscribe, do all the right things, set those notifications so you know when part 2 comes out. But thanks for watching part 1 in Tom's story. Tom, thank you for sharing your story. I actually didn't even know in depth of that. That was really interesting.
I don't think most people do.
That was so in depth of your story and the way that you encountered God, and that was so cool. So thank you for sharing that.
Totally.
And I hope that you guys enjoyed the story and the way that he almost basically got paid to become a Christian.
But I didn't. I didn't take any money.
No, because you had too big of an ego.
Too big of an ego. I could have invested that $100.
You could have.
Compounding interest, I'd have been a millionaire by now. All those years. Just kidding. I don't think so.
All right. Well, thanks. All right.
Peace.
Well, thanks for sharing your story in this first episode.
Sweet.
And we will catch you in the next episode. So stay tuned for that because you're not going to want to miss it. It's going to be very good. And I feel like it's going to help a lot of people. So thanks for watching this. We'll catch you in the next Taboo episode. Peace.